I'm Zewlan Moor and I've done several courses at the Australian Writers Centre, and I'm now super excited that I'm a published author with 2 books. One is called Nothing Alike. It's out with Bright Light imprint of Hardy Grant Children's Publishing. And the second one is The Build-Up. When I started to do a course at the Australian Writers Centre, I was at a new sort of crossroads of my professional career. I was a doctor and I still am, but I was just finishing up. I'd just basically retired from a surgical training program in urology, and it was because of family reasons. I had a new baby and I was moving to a coastal town to start GP training. My baby by then was 2 years old, and I just was doing that training program part-time and also working. I happened to be walking around the Lifeline Book Fest in Brisbane, and I was listening to a podcast, and randomly it was So You Want to Be a Writer podcast. I don't know how, they knew that I wanted to be a writer. And I just was really inspired by hearing an interview with Wendy Orr, and that's where I heard about the writing picture book course, and I decided I wanted to do it. I just thought it was a great opportunity to start writing, which is something that I've always wanted to do. So in the fiction courses, I actually found the most useful was the structural advice given and also industry insights. So I've always been a big reader, but I think as a reader you come to books with a different perspective to as a writer. So it was wonderful to see this structural advice and things from behind the scenes that I had no idea about. One of the most useful parts of the Writing Picture Books course was that it encouraged you to keep abreast of all the current titles within children's picture books. And that was great for me because it sort of let me off the hook and legitimised my passion for going to the library and bookstores and browsing. So lucky me. So one of the other useful skills that I learnt in the Writing Picture Books course was to write marketing blurbs pitched at industry professionals, and to really hone and work out how to succinctly summarise your story in sort of like one-line pitches. So very, very useful and difficult skill. So it's also given me confidence in my writing because it's encouraged me to reach out on social media and to realise that it's not embarrassing to do that authors actually and publishers probably appreciate having you tag them if you like their book or if you're offering a review. And now that I'm writing myself, I just realise how much work goes into these books. So as well as doing the Writing Picture Books course, I also did the Writing Picture Books Masterclass, which is a different thing, but was just that little step on. For the Creative Writing Stage 1 course, I found learning about point of view and structuring longer works to be really valuable and something I'd never thought about at that level. For Write Your Novel, it was sort of a marathon course over 6 months, and it was really great to have the support of a small group of people who were going through the same thing, reading each other's work, critiquing it, but also having the support of a very experienced tutor. And I have actually got a draft for a middle grade novel that I'm still working on. Nothing Alike is a funny picture book about a white boy who has trouble telling his 2 Asian classmates apart. And The Build-Up is a story about a 5-year-old boy and his first experience of rain. So when I heard that my picture books were going to be published, I was just over the moon. It was just indescribable. It was up there with my Syntocin and Rush with my first baby with being induced, so there you go. So the process and path to publication was interesting for Nothing Alike. The story actually just poured out of me because it was basically in my son's words. He told me that story. I took it to my critique group, revised it, submitted it to agents, had a lot of interest, and eventually submitted it to an editor at Kidlit Vic. She was interested in the project, and there was a lot of back and forth, and eventually she signed it, and we've made the book together. which is wonderful. So it was a very fast turnaround. From signing the contract to it being on the shelves was basically a year, which is pretty unheard of in children's publishing. I don't think I was that sort of person who always knew they wanted to be a writer. So when I was little, I grew up in a small country town. We never had author visits, and I really didn't know, I sort of didn't have this idea that the name on the cover of a book was actually a real person. But I think when you are a reader, you read so much, you start to see the really big narrative arcs. So you actually start to get this, well, I started to get this niggly feeling like I just wanted to write. That probably happened as a teen, but it was really listening to the podcast and being inspired by others that got me really thinking about it. Taken many courses, but in the end I focused on picture books because I've been reading a lot of picture books with my children and just love the interplay between the visuals and the text. I feel that reading them together as an adult and a child opens up a lot of space for interaction and relationship, and I feel that they're a very precious medium that doesn't get enough attention actually. I think that writing will always fit into my life. I don't see myself giving up my day job as a GP anytime soon because I'm the primary breadwinner in our family. However, I have so many stories within me. I'm going to keep working on my writing as well. If it wasn't for the Australian Writers Centre, I think that I would have just always been in that stage of, oh, I want to write one day, the stage that I've been at since uni days. I probably would have never made the time to do the work, I would have not had deadlines, and I wouldn't have had a clear pathway of how to reach my goals. Through the Australian Writers Centre, I discovered that if I follow a pathway to publication, I can really do it. And I think that I always tell my friends, if they have any interest at all of us can do it. I always recommend Australian Writers Centre courses to my friends. I don't know how they do it, but their courses are very structured and focused, and I really feel that if you stick to it and do what they say, you will have success.